What's up, everybody? So we've kind of all had that car that just blows servos right and left, and for me, that's the XMaxx. All these stock servos suck. I have a long-lasting rivalry with the 2085 and 2085X. These servos are way too small for this truck, and they just can't hold up to long-term abuse or even short-term abuse. I've had these things die in like 4 or 5 runs. It's just sad. But hopefully this Power HD 80 kg servo is going to help with that problem and probably fix it. So these servos are almost identical in size. I say almost lightly. The main concern we have here is height. The Power HD is a few millimeters taller than the 2085, and by a few I mean maybe 10. Traxxas makes it where the receiver in the XMaxx is built into the chassis, so what we're probably going to have to do is cut out the little receiver box and make our own little metal plate to go above it that we can then screw into the attachment points at the top of the receiver box. This will not be a detailed servo replacement video. I've already done one that shows you how to get to your servo and how to replace it in an XMaxx. So this is how the servo will be mounted inside the XMaxx. It's pretty big, but it will fit. So I've marked it up a little bit to where we need to cut it out. I put Sharpie marking here and here for the mounting brackets that you normally use. For the little mounting housing, whatever they do this, they just kind of do it to beef it up and make it look nice. So we'll cut out this piece here just to make it fit, and then to make the servo wire come out, I have to cut a little bit into the chassis right there where that marking is, and then I'm going to drill a hole right there so the wire can come out and go to the receiver on top. Okay, everybody, so I got it all trimmed up, and the servo fits in there perfectly with no gap, so it fits flush against the chassis right here. But it's too high for the drive shaft to come through, and it would definitely hit it right here. This lower part on the bulkhead comes up too much. If the servo's right here, normally it would fit. If the servo's right here, it wouldn't fit, and it would push this up, and I can't trim this off to make it work. So what we're gonna have to do, let's see, and also here I put that little hole in and it goes perfectly through the chassis. So what we're gonna have to do is cut the whole perimeter of this box out, which is cutting the receiver box out. That just cuts the whole receiver box out, and then we can get a plate for it, and then we can get a waterproof receiver box, and then it'll all tie together and it'll be fine after all this. And this is not a very structural piece, so it's all right. So let's get to cutting this out, but first we have to remove all our receiver crap. So everybody, after a lot of cutting, the servo fits flawlessly. You might be wondering, hey, where the crap is your receiver box? Well, I cut it off, because the only way this servo is going to fit is if you cut the receiver box off. Like, that's the only way. I haven't found any other way besides if you trim like basically all of that out, but then your car doesn't work and your chassis will snap in like 2 seconds. So what I've done is I've trimmed a lot out of here. The back doesn't need much trimming. It's pretty much a bunch of clearance already. I could have left that screw and it would have had a little bit less wiggle room, which is probably good. You have to trim a lot out of the servo mounts here. So I went straight through. Normally this is filled up with a bunch of stuff, plastic there, but I went straight through and now it fits flawlessly. On this front part here, you just have to trim a little bit off this way, so trim this part of it, and then you have to trim this flat piece here so it'll actually fit around the servo spline area. Otherwise, other than that, it pops in there perfectly. It does not move around. So I've fashioned up a little piece here. I'll make up a little template and put that on the screen as well. These are some random screws that I found in my garage with some washers here. And these are the factory screws that went on top of the receiver box. This is gonna slide directly in there on top of the servo and sit over it like this. Now there is a little bit of wiggle room inside there, so I'm going to close that up with some foam that Traxxas includes with their batteries, and so that'll just stop it from wiggling around a bunch. But this goes in directly like this, And then all the screws thread in just like normal into the holes. I'll give a detailed diagram of this plate right here so you can make one yourself, and I've spray painted it black with a protective enamel paint just so it won't rust and look all crap in there after a year of going in water and everything. And I will also give the dimensions of the screws because they have to be long enough to go all the way through the hole here in the chassis and all the way down to this hole here in the bottom of the bulkhead. At the bottom of your screen is the rear of the XMaxx. At the top of your screen is the front of the XMaxx. This is the servo plate diagram. So the plate itself is 3.5 inches wide by 2 5/8 inches long. The screws at the front of the plate are going to be your stock screws that you screw in the receiver box cover with. For the rear of the plate, I used 12 by 2 inch screws. You can find some at Lowe's or Home Depot or any general hardware store. Make sure they are 2 inches long at least, because you want to be able to go all the way through the top of the truck to the bottom. The screws themselves are put inside the plate. The rear screws are 3 1/8 inch from the sides and 5/8 of an inch in from the rear. The front screws are 1/4 inch in from the sides and 7/8 inch from the top. I would also round out the edges on the plate because at the rear corners of the plate they could come into contact with your battery and you don't want that to puncture it. Before doing any cutting or drilling, make sure you measure the plate width and length yourself and make sure you know where you're drilling your holes. To line your holes up well, first cut your plate and then position your plate in, and then take a pen or pencil or something and put it in through the bottom of the chassis and make sure it touches the plate at the top so it gets a dot on it. After you're done drilling your holes, you can just paint it and then put it in the truck. For the padding, I'm going to be using 6 layers of Traxxas foam that they include in their battery boxes, and it's just going to go over the servo just like that, and it's going to squish down a lot. The plate is going to slide over it and compress it. Alright everybody, we got everything all put back together. I test drove it and it works perfectly. And so now all we have to do is put in our receiver box. So here's the part number for the box that I'm going to be using, 3628, because it doesn't have any screws in the bottom that could possibly make it leak, because we're not going to be screwing it to here, we're just going to be gluing it to it. Flex glue some right along here. The box is going to sit basically just like this. To trim the box a little bit. So everybody, we trimmed off the bottom parts of this box here, and what we're going to do is just put it on this side of the plate here, so when we turn right, our steering linkage does not hit that end of the box, and that means that our wires will go from here into there, because when you put the cap on, it'll look like that, and nothing should hit, everything should be perfect. So let's get our flex glue and glue it in, but before we do, let's just wipe off the bottom of the receiver box and the bottom right here where we're going to be putting it on with an alcohol pad. So you may be wondering what the crap is going on here. It looks like garbage, but it actually works pretty well. When I put the receiver back together, I actually took it for a test run and it died, so I got a Dumbo RC receiver and it works much better than stock. The receiver antenna normally comes out of here like this, so what I've done is I've run it out of the box under here, zip tied it to the chassis brace up top, and zip tied it here, ran it through the normal tube, and it just sits there pretty well. Just a heads up everybody, this thing is loud, but also with this Dumbo receiver and that Max 6, that servo gets incredible power, and it can perform at its almost peak power. It performs at peak power at 8.4 volts, but 7.4 is still insane. That was not planned. Two hands. It does actually wobble when you flick back the wheel. Just a little bit, but it does have incredible response. It's got a lot more power now because it's actually flipping the truck. And you can brake and steer at the same time. There's a ton of torque in this thing. All the way down, It's still doing stuff, but the servo spring is preventing it from going. When I first got the truck, I was able to two-wheel. About a month after, it just won't do it anymore because the steering servo didn't have enough power. But now I can two-wheel because the servo has so much power. And if you have slick enough dirt, it will drift. This servo, which has 80 kgs, combined with the Max 6 for just all-out power, is just incredible. It has so much power compared to stock, especially with some 50C, 100C burst Power Hobby lipos. It just rolls over. Whoa. Nope. Oh. No, please don't flip. Please don't flip over.
Bruh.
I don't know what that sound was. I don't want to know. You know, I think we'll check. I think we'll check what that sound was. Might have been the diff. I don't know. It's totally the diff. There is a crack in the front bulkhead. It's ever so small, but it's there. You can barely see it above the drive cup. And it might be separating the diff from the pinion. Ah, gross. It's the front diff. Whoa. Don't mind the clicking, and let's just see how strong this servo is. How did that happen? Just do some donuts. Oh, come on. Oh, it's painful to listen to.
Finish him!
Yes.
Stop! He's already dead.
Oh, I meant to front flip. Oh, I got it. Kind of. Please don't flip over. Oh my god. Whoa, I flew straight past that tree. That was scary. Oh! Woo. Reverse. Yep. Rear wheels do a bunch of something. Front wheels do nothing. I wonder what it looks like in there. Inside that front bulkhead right now. It's got a stick attached. Ah! You know what? I'm kind of sick of hearing that noise. I think we're going to end the video there. Even though the front diff definitely didn't survive
That is not because of the servo or any modifications I've done to the servo. That is because the front bulkhead cracked when I ran it about 3 months ago or something, and I've never changed it. So, guess I'll have to order a new front bulkhead, and now a new diff ring gear. Probably just order another whole diff, to be honest. So guys, the servo is incredible. Not even warm. You can't even tell it's warm. The stock servo had a problem with overheating, like really bad. It would overheat every run. It would get incredibly weak by the last few minutes I had it out, and it was burning up when you touch the plastic below it or above it. This, even though it does have foam on top of it and a metal plate on it, there are like little vent holes around it, and it's not particularly sealed up anywhere, so it has a massive breathing hole that it's basically just getting a bunch of cool air pushed through it and onto it. So it is cooling it. The stock servos have cooling fins on it, but what good are cooling fins if it's surrounded in a plastic cage? And even though, you know, you did have to modify your chassis and everything, it's definitely worth it. I don't see any problems happening with it, especially after what you do to it, because the servo is not, well, the servo before is a structural part of the truck because, you know, it crumples a lot. This is still a structural part, but it allows for a little bit more flex where the servo is, so it's not going to bend the servo. It's not going to do anything to the servo body to stress out the gears or stress out the case or stress out the electronics inside. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, tell me that I'm a moron or something for doing this, please feel free to comment down below. Well, everybody, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.